Got that a little bit quicker than I expected, but it's all good. It's been an exciting last 24 hours. I think I was up till 3 last night watching all of the news going on, as I'm sure some of you were as well. Then before that, we heard the announcement that Dana Holgerson and Phil Snow were both in Lincoln, Nebraska, appointed to the staff, and Matt Rule's trying to take action and get some things worked out because, like I've said since the beginning of the season, this is a must win season for Matt Rule because last year he got to 5 and this year he has to show improvement since he was able to diagnose and bring in players who could fix some of those issues that they were encountering in the last 4 games that we watched when they were playing against Maryland, Michigan State, Wisconsin, and Iowa. Very similar game slate in these next, 3 weeks. And we're hoping that with the addition of a guy like Dana Holgerson, a coach who I'm going to look at here in a minute with you guys, pull up a little screen share, a coach who has so much experience as an offensive coordinator, working with some of the brightest minds in college football. Keep in mind, Dana Holgerson went from working with Mike Leach. He's part of that picture with all of those superstar coaches all on that same, I think it was the 2007 Texas Tech team. He then went and worked for Kevin Sumlin. Wouldn't call him an elite head coach, but he did have success over there at Texas A&M, was the head coach at Arizona as well. So he worked with Kevin Sumlin and then obviously for himself twice at West Virginia and then at Houston. So decorated offensive mind. Obviously someone who, even if you were to say, because I have seen comments like this, which I don't agree with, but they're out there. People say, well, he's a failing or a troubled head coach. He wasn't able to continue that string of success that he had early on in his career. Why would Matt Rule go and get someone from the gutter? Such a ridiculous take. I typically wouldn't respond to something like that, but just to ease your mind in case you come across any of those ridiculous comments on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, or anywhere else, keep this out there, or at least in your head. Nebraska is pursuing someone who has done something remarkable in his career, and because Matt Rule has whatever relationship he has with him, he trusts him enough to bring him in to revive his team that Matt Rule is so desperate to see get better. And before I get to the chat, I actually want to read this. It's from a different message board, so I don't want to pull it up and screen share it since it's a paid message board and I don't want to give out their stuff. But this is what the comment says. Matt Rule wants to win more than any of you irrational crybabies on this board. These totally baseless claims that he won't do what's necessary at the end of the season are simply idiotic. Believe me, he knows what he's doing. His history proves he learns as he goes. I know it's painful. I'm so tired of losing, and yes, it hurts. But if you're so dumb that you think Rule, who is far more invested in Nebraska winning than any of us are, just take these losses in stride as little more than a short-term disappointment, and then, or he's just making another negative comment. I don't want to read it. I was going to rephrase it and not be negative, but I'm just going to leave the last part out. The point he's making, though, is that Nebraska has a head coach who is as interested, not even interested, as committed to winning as any of us are. So for us to get ridiculous online and be negative and say, well, he's not making the right move, or he's not making the right move at the right time, or anything else that I've seen in my comment section or other places, they're baseless claims. And if you're going to go out and make an accusation like that, let's actually accuse Matt Rule of struggling and failing because he doesn't care, not because he's not trying and he's not giving the effort. No one has the instant solution. No one has a magic pill. You have to go try different things and hope that you eventually stumble on the right solution. How many Nick Sabans and Urban Meyers are out there? I can tell you it's very, very few and far between. People thought Lincoln Riley was a superstar guru in college football. Now he's at USC 3 years into his career there, and they're already calling his name for the hot seat, right? So there is no guru out there. There are Nick Saban, Urban Meyer maybe, but not many of them. Guys have to try. They have to figure out ways to get better, and hopefully Matt Rule, who did make a strong decision by bringing in an outside person to this staff in the middle of the season. I feel like this is going on a long tangent, and I don't want to get you guys lost, but Matt Rule went and did something that's totally out of the ordinary. When he has a team who is winning games, they're a winning team at this point. They're 5-4. Things are not going their way on the offense, struggles on defense as well. He went out and brought in 2 outside consultants. In his space, those consultants carry heavy weight because they're not just random guys off the street. They're Dana Holgerson and they're Phil Snow, an NFL and multiple college stop defensive coordinator and an offensive coordinator head coach from college. So you've got 2 guys who are highly decorated. You would never have them in your building typically during the middle of the season. You would usually wait until the end to make any changes. But he's saying, you know what? We can't wait. I want to win so bad right now. And I do believe, this is Matt Rule talking, by the way. Matt Rule says, I do believe that I have the talent on this team to get to 6, 7, potentially even 8. We have to find a solution today. I'm tired of watching us fail. You know, Matt Rule made a bad choice in the offseason. One bad choice. Because the rest of his choices and decisions were actually really good. And most of us applauded them. But the one thing people were frustrated by was that he kept Marcus Satterfield. And at least now that he's had this, what's it been? 10 games? No, sorry, 9 games? 8 games? 5 and 4. 9 games. It's been 9 games. He can now look and say, maybe I did make the right decision. And I saw a chat come in here from Jim. Jim was so accurate in this chat. I 100% agree with this message. Thank you for the 468, Jim. He says, new consultants will be next year's offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. And I'm 100% in agreement with this. Dana Holgerson will be and is one of the most sought after offensive coordinators in the country. A school like Oklahoma is going to go after a top offensive coordinator who either has head coaching experience or is a young guy who's under the radar and needs a shot. Dana Holgerson fits the profile of someone that, what's his name? I can't remember the head coach's name. Venables. Someone Venables would go after, right? There are going to be other schools who need an OC. So instead of waiting, instead of losing out on the one guy he wants, Matt Rule brings him in early, starts to get him familiar with his team. They introduced him to the team, I think, yesterday. So the team's starting to get familiar with him. So in the case that Matt Rule decides it is time to pull the plug on the Satterfield era, which I do believe is going to come to an end, he'll at least have someone ready to go and someone who can hopefully fix the offense and maximize the talent they have, especially with their quarterback, right? Anyway, that's my thought on that, Jim. Thank you for the super chat. Bad Bar, thank you for the $10 super chat. He says, hey, Connor, GBR, future looks bright. Future does look bright when you have a coach who will take a shot, a coach who will take some risk, a coach who wants it as bad as we do. You know, I wanted to get to this comment, actually, Bad Bar. Thank you for the $10 super chat again. I saw this comment on my YouTube the other day. It says, you all need to stop making excuses for Matt. He made bad decisions since day one. He has a lot of good players from Scott's class. And to be honest, his class is getting plenty of playing time. He's in his second season and nothing has changed. Same crap, different year. So there are a lot of comments like this, and that's why I'm addressing it. Because I think this kind of encapsulates all of what people are trying to say online that are negative about Matt Rule and trying to twist it into being worse than it actually is. I don't think the Matt Rule era is off to as bad of a start as people try to make it. It isn't off to a good start. There have been pluses, there have been minuses, but at the end of the day, you need wins. You need to see improvement in that category, and right now, things have looked bleak. Okay, I get it. But here, I'm going to go back to the comment. He made bad decisions since day one. I totally disagree with that. I think he made a great decision in the way he put his roster together. I think he made a great decision in his approach to recruiting. I think Matt Rule made a great decision in some of his hires, including defensive coordinator Tony White. I think he made a good decision in the way he's deciding to be a CEO and manage the program as a whole, because there are so many elements and aspects that go into it that we didn't have going on before. NIL, all of the new money that comes in, the donations. I mean, you have to manage the program as much or more than you have to manage your roster and the X's and O's, right? So I do think that he's made some good decisions. The bad decision he's referring to that I can agree with is I don't think Marcus Satterfield is the best hire. I think that was probably, a really safe choice that he went with extremely low upside and low risk in his mind. He didn't want to get someone who he'd be tied to or that he didn't trust. I don't know what the deal was, but he wanted to get someone who he's familiar with. So you can say that was the one bad decision. The next part of this comment says he has a lot of good players from Scott Frost's class. I think that's true, and that's why he didn't have to flip the entire roster. He didn't have to go and do what Deion Sanders did or what the Indiana coach had to do. And to be honest, his class is getting plenty of playing time. There are a lot of young guys getting a lot of playing time. And he says nothing has changed, same crap, different year. No, things have changed. There just isn't a giant leap. And although we would hope for more, the expectation was to get to 7 wins. And they're in position to right now. They still have a chance to. So it's hard to judge him based on your last comment because things are changing. There has been growth on the offensive side of the ball in certain ways. There has obviously been a regression in others. But I don't like to get too high or too low on a head coach in year 2 and to make drastic claims like this because I just don't think they're justified. So anytime you see someone talking like that, they're a little bit extreme. And I just don't think it's fair to judge Matt Rule for year 2. And I have another comment to follow up on that. I'm just resizing it so it pops up on the screen. Okay, next comment following up on what our last guy just said. This is from P. Combs. He says, took 21 games to get here regarding Matt Rule. Action, yes. Expeditious, no. Because I said Matt Rule's taking action in terms of getting rid of Satterfield, or not getting rid of, changing the offense dynamic up a little bit by bringing in Dana Holgerson. He says action, yes. Expeditious, no. Saying that he wishes Matt Rule would have taken a quicker approach to this whole deal. In August, he said he wasn't going to hit the panic button on Sat like everyone was calling for. Clearly, he should have. And the reason I want to end on this with this kind of wrapping thought to the last one is that there is some blame that Matt Rule has to shoulder because he didn't make a quick move in the offseason after witnessing what Marcus Satterfield had done at Nebraska. But because of what Satterfield was given and what he had to deal with and go through as a first-year OC in the Big Ten with all of those injuries, with the ridiculous transfer portal quarterback who could not handle the ball, it was really hard to make a judgment on that. And I do believe it was fair for Matt Rule to not judge Satterfield in that moment and give him a little bit more time. Now, we see that the changes have to be made now, and Matt Rule made them. Matt Rule is a guy you can trust to go out and do what's best for this program, which goes back to another comment that I talked about a minute ago. He does what it takes. He has what it takes. And I do believe that he is a good long-term solution because he's always trying to adjust. We talked the other day about my live stream, or we talked the other day about my tweet on my live stream where we talked about Bo Pelini back and forth with a bunch of people. And the problem with Bo Pelini was he tried some different things. They didn't work, but it felt like he was a bit rooted in his ideas. And because he was rooted in the quarterbacks he wanted to work with, or the style of offense he wanted to run, the type of OCs he was bringing in, and his involvement with them, it held him back from ultimately being more successful. And that's why Bo Pelini didn't work out. He could not get over the hump. He kept getting blown out. The offense didn't produce enough points, and it didn't work in the Big Ten. Matt Rule, I believe, is going to find ways to fix and not just bandage, but ultimately really transform the team, even if it's not what he originally came in with, right? Matt Rule said when I came in, I want to be a Big Ten ground and pound team, fullback. But now he gets a Dylan Raiola, has a totally new opportunity. He's like, hey, I want to spread the ball out more. Totally different approach. And he's not glued to these philosophies that he has because, like I said, he's a CEO. He's not focused as much on the X's and O's. He's figuring out the right people to put in place to manage those X's and O's and let him oversee the entire process in the program. I think it's a really unique way of looking at things because most people, we're familiar with a guy like Scott Frost or a Bo Pelini. Bo Pelini was an expert on defense. He was extremely involved as a play caller, as a developer. Scott Frost on offense, extremely involved, play caller, developer. Everything was about the offense. So you have a coach who's just taking a different approach than some of these other coaches that we have seen over these past years do. And I like it. So, K-Spec says, I have 2 complaints with the rule. 1, should have implemented a spread/air style offense from the beginning. 2, Dylan is from that style of offense, develop the offense around his strength and knowledge. Well, I don't understand your second complaint, I'm going to be honest with you. 1, should have implemented a spread or air style offense from the beginning. I do believe Nebraska did come out and plan to throw it a little bit more last year than they ended up doing it. Sorry, I'm so tired, guys. I went to bed at 3 a.m. last night. So when Jeff Sims got to Nebraska, the expectation was that they were going to lean on a heavy run game because he was a runner. But they were still going to throw the ball. The reason Nebraska didn't throw it last year, and the reason they couldn't throw it last year, was because the entire quarterback room was just abject to it. They could not do it. Every time they would go in and throw it, it'd be a pick, it'd be an overthrown ball, it'd be a misread, whatever. They froze up. They were not solid passing quarterbacks. So what do you expect the offense to do? And how do you judge Matt Rule for that situation or Marcus Satterfield? The guys they had in that room limited their ability play call wise, and Nebraska was forced to be a run heavy team. Going into this year, you talk about number 2, Dylan's from that style of offense, spread offense, develop the offense around the strength. They changed the offense and did that this year. The whole idea was we're going away from fullback downhill run game, and we're going to open it up more. We're going to go downfield more. We're going to get bigger bodied, faster receivers who can make plays. And they've done that to some degree. they haven't been extremely successful in it, but they've done it. So I don't know what the second complaint is. Husker D, winning will bring in the hype and recruits instantly. And as long as you're a good coach, you can sustain in winning. I think that's 100% true. I think you're referring to Sarah's comment where it says Rule is trying to rebuild the program to be winning for years to come, not just a one-hit wonder like Indiana will be. So here's the deal, D. I do believe a strategy like Indiana's taken, it allows them to be successful in year one. And like you said, they're going to be able to recruit a little bit. But there's going to be a massive drop-off next year. And although they're going to be able to go to the portal and get as many guys as they can, I don't think that IU is going to be able to recreate this, whatever it turns out to be, 10, 11-win season, because they brought in so much senior leadership and experience from another school. A lot of their production came from one school. But I do believe winning does solve things. It's just there are two different approaches. So I'm not knocking Rule's strategy versus, what's his name? Kurt Signetti. Let's see. You guys want to talk about Holgerson? Because Michael says, can Dylan work in the Holgerson offense? All right. So I actually pulled this up. I've got a few things pulled up about Holgerson. Let me go to my screen share. So before I talk more about Holgerson and get into his stats and stuff, here's the fact of the situation that people, try to look over or overlook, I guess is the better way to say it. Because they want an instant fix. They want to see a bandage that comes in and allows Nebraska to fly higher than they have up to this point in the season. Dana Holgerson was brought into Nebraska because Matt Rule knows that he needs to lock in an offensive coordinator who he can get familiar with his team ASAP, number one. Number two, Matt Rule knows that's a coordinator who's going to be a hot name on the market, and he'd rather get him to Lincoln now than have to bid for him or fight for him later down the line against schools like OU who might want him. Okay? Number three, Rule has seen how bad the offense has been and how much talent they have and how much potential they have to take way more steps forward and to score more than 18 points a game, right? So he's saying, let's get someone in who can, I don't know if he's going to help Satterfield or if he's just going to overlook what's going on and look at the film and then tell Rule, hey, here are some instant ways we can make this offense improve. Here's a way you can score another touchdown a game. I don't know how that's going to work exactly, but I do know this. Matt Rule brought Holgerson in as a long-term plan, not a quick fix, because Matt Rule isn't a quick fix kind of guy. So I don't believe that Matt Rule said, we're going to get Holgerson and we're going to hope that he makes a difference for us in 2024. I mean, he hopes that, but he's not banking on it. He's banking on the long-term solution. He's banking on this relationship with Holgerson and his players and obviously whatever the future is with him and Sat. He's banking on that turning into a Holgerson-led offense or a Holgerson-inspired offense that will help Nebraska to be a lot more effective. A guy like Dana Holgerson, who's been an offensive coordinator at Texas Tech, an offensive coordinator at Houston, an offensive coordinator at Oklahoma State, and then a head coach at 2 Power 4 Big 12 schools, he wants to be a head coach. He's already proven, I think between 2011 and 2023, he was a head coach. So he's already proven he has what it takes to get there. He's had some successful seasons, some not so. But not all guys are meant to be head coaches. Not all guys are going to be successful in that role. And you have to accept that and say, okay, well, he wasn't a great head coach, but maybe like a Scott Frost, he's better fit to be an OC. So now you've got Holgerson who's coming in, and we're excited for now with him because we're hoping he can patch things up. But really, this is about the future. So I'm not banking too much on his influence in the offense today. I am, however, banking on the idea that he can lend a hand in the film room and say, hey, this isn't working with your receivers, but, I've coached quarterbacks who have that talent, and I've coached receivers who've got that build, and I think if you do this with that quarterback-receiver duo, you might have more success. That's my expectation. So maybe we see some of his influence over the next few weeks. We've seen that the staff's willing to make changes. From Ohio State week, when they threw 12 screen passes and failed miserably at them, to UCLA week, when they threw 0 screen passes and the offense still struggled. They made a massive change. They tried something new. They're not afraid of taking a shot and doing something different than what they said they were going to do before the season. If it's not working, they're going to fix it. I think that's what's most exciting about Matt Rule. So that's the thought on Holgerson. That's why I'm not too worked up, or I didn't make some video like, oh, Nebraska's new offensive mastermind who's going to come in and save the day. I don't believe that's going to happen. I think this is a long-term solution. next year solution. So here's what Dana Holgerson's got going on. He was at Texas Tech in 2007 with Mike Leach, 12th ranked offense. Then he went to Houston with Kevin Sumlin. Back-to-back years, 2008, 2009, 9th ranked offense, 2nd ranked offense. Okay, I don't even know who the QB was back then. 2008, 2009, I was in high school. Then you get up to Brandon Weeden and Oklahoma State in 2010 with Mike Gundy. Top 3 offense nationally. So this dude's stock is extremely hot. He's off 4 seasons as an offensive coordinator with a top 12 offense nationally. All right. Then you go over to West Virginia, and things start well. 2011 West Virginia was with Geno Smith. I've actually got it pulled up right here. 2010. Okay. So 2010, their coach is Bill Stewart. Geno Smith's the QB, 65% completion. He has a couple receivers who go for over 700 yards. They end up scoring 25 points a game. And then you go to 2011, Dana Holgerson gets hired. They're scoring 37 points a game. Not quite double, but they're doing a lot better. Geno Smith doubles his yards. Smith now throws for 4,400 yards as opposed to whatever it was, 2,400. And look at their receivers. Tavon Austin, 1,200-yard year. Stedman Bailey, almost 1,300 yards that year. And then down the list, you have other guys who are making a lot of catches. But look how many passes Geno Smith threw. 526. He's an air raid coordinator at this point in his career, and he had a lot of success doing it. You go to 2012. They were a 7-win team. Geno Smith's still the quarterback. Completion percentage went back up. His yards went down a little bit, but still, he's firing it all over. He's got a couple receivers who have even bigger years. So I think the value in Dana Holgerson, if I was going to look at this and say, well, how is he going to impact Nebraska tomorrow? What can he do that's going to change the way this offense looks? New passing concepts, new ways to get receivers open, new ways to utilize Raiola's skill set. Maybe because he has worked with so many good quarterbacks. Add in Clayton Tune from Houston, Derek King at Houston. He's worked with a lot of guys who have different skill sets, is my point. Like Derek King's a runner. He wasn't as much of a passer, but he was still on his roster. Dana can come in and look at the film that we don't see, right? Like when we watch film, we watch highlights. We watch the shortened version where you can only see half the route. Dana's going to look at this and say, okay, well, here's where your receivers are getting caught up. And maybe in this crossing route, we can create this concept that'll allow him to get freed up if you have this little pick and whatever it is, right? I'm not an OC. Also, he can evaluate the other coaches on the staff. He's a consultant. So Matt Rule can say, hey, you're an expert offensive coordinator. You're an expert head coach. You might not have been an amazing head coach, but you've done it for 10 years at a high level. I think he's been a head coach in Power 5 longer than Matt Rule has. Actually, I'm certain he has. He was a head coach in Power 5 for 12 years. Matt Rule's only done that for 5 years, right? Anyway, he can say, evaluate my other coaches on this staff. What do you think about the offensive line coach? How would you manage that? What about my receivers coach? He's a young guy. He's up and coming. Is he the right fit? There are ways that he can offer his services outside of just let me give you some new plays to run, right? Because Dana Holgerson, like we talked about, has been not far removed, but he hasn't been a successful coach in a few years. He got let go from Houston, right, in 2023. He's been a defensive analyst for TCU. So it's not like he's sitting writing up offensive plays, but he can shed some light and some ideas that will hopefully give Nebraska a little bit of an uptick, and that's the hope. I'm looking at Dana right now. I'm going to pull this up. So when you look at his head coaching record, although he wasn't extremely successful, he's 92-69. And I saw someone say, oh, he's a losing head coach. I think I talked about that earlier in the stream. He's a losing head coach who's had extreme success at certain points in his career. So when you can go and get a guy like that with that much success, like I said, you get him to help you with the other aspects on offense, to help you in other ways where Matt Rule might be lacking. The Zero says being a coordinator is different than being a head coach. I think Holgerson will do great focusing solely on offense. Reminds me of the Scott Frost situation. you know? Same kind of idea. Scott Frost would be much better as an offensive coordinator than a head coach. Pretty Sarah, thank you for the $2 super chat. Thank you for being a member. Sat, Foley, and McGuire are gone at the end of the year. GBR. Yeah, I think at this point I would predict that. At this point, all three. 100% Foley, 94% Sat, 70% McGuire. I do think McGuire's time and his leash is shorter with someone like Holgerson coming in because he's going to be able to evaluate that position coach for him. And he'll be able to say, hey, Rule, this guy isn't the right fit. You need someone with this kind of mentality, or you need someone who can do this for your receivers. The Zero says, isn't Holgerson still getting Houston's paycheck? I'm sure he is, because he's only been out for a year and a half. And if they would have fired him, he would have gotten at least 3 years, you'd assume, right? Michelle, thank you for being a member. No other coach we had has moved this quickly to try and fix what's going wrong. It's 1,000% true. There are a lot of coaches who don't fix the problems. There are a lot of coaches who just accept their fate, which is the weirdest thing to me. Like, why don't you go out and try and do something different? Why don't you step up and make for a better team? A lot of these coaches are so set in their ways, and a lot of their egos and their expectation that, oh, well, they love me and they're going to keep me. It's ridiculous. Matt Rule doesn't have that in him. Guys, I want to talk about something else, by the way. I wanted to show you this. So this is actually nuts to me. There is a new channel on YouTube. There's some chats I want to get back to, but I just want to mention this first. There's this channel on YouTube, okay? It's called the Nebraska Cornversation, all right? I'm not sure if you guys have seen this. I don't have the audio on, so you can't hear it, but I'm showing you. Just flip through it. I mean, it's a little bit corn crazed-esque. A talking head video, pop-ups, text, funny things going on, little subscribe buttons. I don't know if there's music on it or not, but, you know, it does the same thing I do. It is AI, for those who don't know. I mean, I'm sure you do know. But Nebraska, like, as a spokesperson, this person as a Nebraska spokesperson, isn't a real one. It's a person who writes a script. And then after they write the script, they plug it into some system, and this fake person, this fake chick, which I don't remember what she said her name is, Viv. This fake chick, Viv, reads the script like a real person would. And it's really interesting to watch. It's not like it's good content. Like, you could do whatever you want. You can go watch it if you want, like, just to check it out. But I just want you guys to be aware of what's coming on social media. I've had people reach out to me and they're like, hey, Connor, you want to maximize your time? Stop recording videos. Like, what the hell are you talking about? They said, write scripts, upload scripts to our software, and we'll mimic your face and shit. And it costs, you know, it's not expensive. They're like, we'll mimic your face and your tone and everything. And this AI software will put out your videos for you. And I was like, that sounds cool, interesting, but not something I'd be interested in, because I enjoy the personal connection. And I think you guys like that too, that it's like a real person talking to you. If you go and watch this, it's a little bit stiff. So I'm not here to bash on this channel. If you guys want to watch this channel, subscribe to it, whatever, I'm cool. Like, I don't get jealous of other channels out there making content. But yeah, I just wanted to shed some light on it so you guys weren't confused. Because when someone first sent it to me, they're like, hey, this is crazy. This girl started the channel and da-da-da. And it's like, no. This is a guy who's like us who started an AI channel with an AI influencer, which is nuts. But it's cool, different, unique. Dash Cammer, thank you for being a member for 2 years. Thank you for gifting 10 Corn Craze memberships. I appreciate the support. You're awesome. I was actually looking. Dash Cammer has been one of my longest subscribed members. I think he's in the top 3, 26 months, I believe. There's another person with 27 months. I was going to shout them out too, but I forgot to add it to this stream, so I'll do it in a different one. But Dash Cammer, again, thank you for the support. It means a lot. I appreciate you. Let's see. Some comments from John. So John says, I love this. I love all the debates. I know there's a debate coming when other people in the chat are going back and forth saying this guy's a hater or whatever. All right, John. John's opinionated because he's been in my last few streams, giving a lot of comments, and I enjoy interacting with him. I think John's a smart guy. John's got some interesting takes, so we'll react to more of them. He says, the consultants should be paid out of Rule's salary. So I think there's an argument to be made that could be true. If you can't do the job yourself, that we pay you to do. Why do you have to go and spend more of our money to get it done? I get that. But at the same time, with the dynamics of college football and how involved it is, and I talk about Rule being that CEO, I do believe you have to have a little bit more grace for him and say he has to be as much of a businessman right now as he does a football man. And if he can go out and hire some football guys while he leads the charge on the business front, which is recruiting, money management, day-to-day, hiring, everything else, outside of just coaches around the room, I think you can give him a little leeway from an X and O standpoint and let him go hire some people. I'll tell you this. If I was building my perfect college football program tomorrow, like you gave me the keys and said, Connor, go do your thing, I'm hiring an elite manager, someone who understands the game, like a general manager, someone who understands the game, someone who gets recruiting, has had their hands in the pot at different places, and maybe he hasn't been an exceptional X and O guy, but he knows how to make the right hires, he knows how to recruit, he knows how to build up the whole organization. I make him my head coach. I never expect him to call a play. I never expect him to get involved with the DC. Then I go out and hire the best, well, he'll have to hire the best OC and DC he can possibly find, right? And you let them take full responsibility for that. And you have extremely short leashes. And you say, you know what, my GM, my coach, is going to get a longer leash, but he's going to have to manage his guys, his OC and DC, extremely tight, and his position coaches, make sure they're all, on the same page. And I think it would lead to excellence, because you have someone who's so involved from all lanes and all aspects that you don't lose out in any area. You go back to Chip Kelly at UCLA. He wasn't a good recruiter. He wasn't good at dealing with donors, boosters, and all the NIL stuff. So UCLA slacked in one area while they were exceptional from a play calling standpoint on offense and defense. But would you rather have to give up that, or would you have rather have made Chip Kelly the OC and hired a guy who was more fit to be a manager, like a Matt Rule, in his place? You'd probably go with that. The argument there could be, well, the OCs are going to want to be the head coaches and all this, that, whatever. It's like, okay, well, I'm sure, but there's somebody out there who doesn't. There's somebody out there who understands what it takes to be a guy who oversees everything. I would actually wonder, I haven't done enough research into him, but Curt Cignetti, is he more of an X and O guy, or is he more of a overseer, a manager? John says, Rule didn't want anyone who would challenge him. That's why he hired Satterfield. I think that could be true. I think Rule had an idea for what he wanted to build, and he had a way that he wanted to do things. He was obviously confident from his last stop at Baylor, and I think he felt like, it's the Big Ten. It doesn't have to be complicated. Downhill run game, big linemen, heavy running backs who are quick enough to get off the line and punch through. If we don't complicate things, we can rely on our defense that's been consistently succeeding at every stop we've had. And the offense just needs to score 21 points a game. And Rule probably thought he could get there with his strategy, brought in a simple hire, is what I'll call it. It's a guy I know who, I don't care how successful he's been, he'll come in and do what I say, just like you said, and we can trust each other. So I think now that they're transitioning from a basic, simplified version of an offense to a much more complex beast, because you have a 5-star quarterback and you're trying to bring in talent to match that guy, you're going to have to score a lot more points. You're going to have to be a lot more impressive on that side of the ball, because if you aren't, what type of players want to come play for you? I believe that Matt Rule, when he first got in, he set his recruiting board up and said, I want to go out and get the best defensive linemen, the best offensive linemen, the best DBs, the fastest players, and turn them into whatever position. That's all cool. But the problem is that having a extremely talented defense and having some good offensive linemen, it doesn't make things attractive or enticing for a guy like Dylan to come play in that offense, or a guy like I don't remember what that recruit's name is from Texas, Michael Terry, to come play in that offense. Because why would they want to come and do something boring or basic? Why would they want to come and play like Iowa? So that's my takeaway on it. I don't know. Who knows if I'm right or wrong? It's just kind of my takeaways from these first couple of years. C3PO says, how injured is Raiola? I don't think he's injured. I think he's banged up at best. I think he's okay. John says, with Holgerson, we better drop 35 in our next game. See, I just don't believe that he's going to make that much of an impact out the gate. I think the Holgerson game plan is to get him familiar, to get him comfortable, to lock him in, and to have him redefine what the offense looks like next season. I think this year is going to be, let's try and figure out ways to help improve what we're doing, but we're not going to rewrite the entire script. We're going to continue to do what this team knows, what Sats trained them on, and maybe there's a couple wrinkles that Holgerson can throw in, but I don't see this being a totally different offense. So don't get your hopes up. That's all I'm saying. It's better to not get your hopes up, have low expectations, and then be pleasantly surprised, you know? Colby says, Holgerson has been an OC at a notable school for 6 seasons at 3 different places. His Texas Tech years, number 4, number 13, number 7. Houston years, number 10, number 2. Oklahoma State, number 3. And that Oklahoma State year was extremely impressive. That Oklahoma State year, they, I think, were a borderline national championship team. They were really close to getting there. Really quick, I'm going to clear this chat. We still got to talk about my picks and predictions and all that, huh? Our show is sponsored by PrizePicks. I know you've heard this before. They've been an awesome sponsor for us, and they make sure that I can make content all the time for you. You know, if you use our code CORN on their app, it's super easy to use. You go to PrizePicks in the App Store, or just type in PrizePicks.com, and it'll prompt you to download the app. You sign up, and you use promo code CORN, which is at the bottom of the screen. You can see it here. You've heard me say that promo code before, so I know you won't forget it. You play $5 after you sign up, and they're going to give you $50 to play with. So it's almost like risk-free play, right? Well, not almost. It is risk-free play. You get to sign up and make one $5 play, but then they're going to give you $50 of risk-free play, and if you win on that $50, you get to keep that. So it's a win-win scenario, and that's why I love partnering with a company like PrizePicks. They give us an opportunity to give our audience something cool and useful, because I know there are a lot of people who like using it, and a lot of guys who play on the app as it is. So we have hundreds. I think we have 300 or 400 people from our Corn Craze community signed up on the app, and they send me all of their plays in our Discord group on my Instagram. I get texts about them, so I've seen tons of plays come my way, and everyone's got a different strategy. But basically, you just pick more or less. Super simple. You pick more yards, points, touchdowns. You can take picks or make picks on. Let's say I'd say 8 different players from each team, usually 7 or 8, and you just pick the more or less. And if they hit the more or the less, then you win that square, and then that counts towards your lineup. Win a lineup, and you get paid. So it's a fun app to use and try if you haven't before. So this is the site. It's very simple to use. You click more, you click less, and then you put your entry number here. You can make some a power play. You can make some a flex play. A power play means you need to hit 3 in a row. A flex play right here means that if you hit 3, you get this payout. If you only hit 2 and lose 1, you still win money. So it's different than when you play on a sports book or anything like that. This is a pick'em site, so it's different. It's unique. Something you guys probably haven't seen before if you haven't signed up for PrizePicks. This week in college football, Nebraska won't be playing. I have been winning money on Nebraska. I post up my lineups and my winners. And Nebraska's been pretty profitable so far this season. A lot of opportunity with Dylan Raiola. Usually they give him low lines. Did he hit last week? I don't remember if he hit last week. But Ja'Cory Barney did. Jamal Banks did. Isaiah Nayor. So we've had some winners. This week, I'm not going to make my plays yet. I'm going to make my plays on Thursday, Friday. I'm going to the I'm going to the Mississippi-Georgia game this week. I'm flying out tomorrow morning. That's why we're doing our live stream today. Tomorrow I fly, and I'll make my picks from there. But there's a lot of good SEC action this week. You've got Alabama and LSU, which I'm going to make a play on this real quick. Let's go Garrett Nussmeier to have 2 passing touchdowns. I think this will be a higher scoring game. And then we're going to add in, is that Jalen Milroe right there, rush yards? What's he done? You can see right here, you can click on his little tab in this left corner, and it shows you his recent history. Jalen Milroe had 50 rush yards against Missouri in his last game. Before that, he had 11 against Tennessee. I do think against LSU, he's going to have a little bit tougher of a time. He might get sacked, so we're not going to take that. Maybe we'll go with Kyron Lacey receiving yards, Travis Hunter receiving yards. Travis is playing for the Heisman. He had 153 against Cincinnati. I'm trying to think of which player I should add in here. This is tough. Maybe Ryan Williams. He's been a little bit hit or miss. Had 53 against Missouri. They're going to have to throw it. Bernard, the receiver for Bama, was pretty good. I'm going to go with him. So we're doing a two-leg lineup here. We're going Garrett Nussmeier passing touchdowns. That's a green goblin, so it's a higher chance that it hits. Plus Bernard receiving yards at 57.5. You get 2 of them right. The payout's 2.25x. I'm just going to throw $10 on it. Pays $22.50. So there's my first lineup for the week. I'm going to put all my lineups in Discord. Obviously, it's a bye week for Nebraska, so you'll be able to watch some other games. And if you want to play PrizePicks while you watch other games and get some action on it, just use our code CORN. They've been a big supporter of our channel. So thank you, PrizePicks. All right, I'm going back to our chat. Let's see. Douglas says the audio of the last couple of videos has been noticeably lower. I can turn the audio up, boys. I can turn it up. The reason my audio is lower is because I'm using a different mic. And let me see here. I'm using a different mic. And I didn't want it to be blown out because for some people, I think it's blown out. And for others, I think it sounds a little low. So for me, it sounds blown out. Like if I was to log into my computer right now, it would be too, here, I'm turning it up. If I was to go on my computer right now, it would be too loud and blown out. But if you guys can't hear, then I want to make sure you can. So let me know what you guys think about the audio now. If it's too loud, I'll turn it back down. But yeah, it's weird. On the new mics I got these little DJI mics, this little mic kit. They are great for the computer, like if you have a computer audio, but they aren't great for the phone. So on the phone, it's a little bit low. On computer, it's a little bit loud. So it's tough to figure out what the best balance is. Let's see. Penguin says, why is ESPN glazing USC so much? 82.3% chance for them to win. You know, USC is a really strong team. They just don't have great coaching. How about this? Is this better? USC's a really good team. I don't want to be too loud. If I'm too loud, you guys tell me. Like, I don't want to be blown out for you guys. That's my only issue. Anyway, USC's a good team, and they have a lot of talent across the board. The problem with USC is they don't have players who are executing at the right time during the game. So an example is last week, they had Miller Moss at the goal line, and the offense was unable to score twice. An offense led by Lincoln Riley, led by Miller Moss, who was a four-star quarterback, and a ton of other four-star players and studly running backs, receivers. I mean, USC is stacked with talent all over the place, right? USC failing to score does not make them a worse team. It made them bad at execution in that moment. But when you look at them versus a team like Nebraska, who also fails in those exact same aspects of the game, it cancels itself out. So then you just say, okay, well, talent versus talent, who's better? And home field, who matches up? ESPN thinks USC has a much better matchup than Nebraska, obviously, and I don't blame them. USC's a team now with a running QB, Jaden Mayava, who's 6'4", looks like an NFL guy, very similar profile to Ethan Garbers. And Nebraska's gotten eaten up by guys like that this year. The quarterback for Illinois, the quarterback for IU, the quarterback that they just saw in Ethan Garbers. I mean, what's his name? Will Howard was almost perfect against Nebraska. So it makes sense that they are not getting a lot of credit in that game. And as much as it frustrates me, I understand it. I think that's the best way to say it. Andy, Connor, you will be at the USC game, right? I will be at the USC game in section 122. In the 20-something row or 18th row, something like that. I will be there. I'm excited for it. Twevin says, thoughts on Caleb Johnson over 1.5 touchdowns, demon prop. I like that one. For a Red Devil, I like that. I like Caleb Johnson against UCLA because I think UCLA is in for a letdown game. I think the spread's what, 5.5? Which means Iowa probably scores 21 plus. It could be a shootout. You never know. I like the Caleb Johnson touchdown prop. Let's see. Sarah says, it was nice seeing you at Rod's tailgate for the Colorado game. Rod's my father, by the way. Hopefully you can get out for another next year. Got it, Sarah. I didn't realize that was you I met at the Colorado game. Makes sense. Rod's great. So we got Rod and we got Rod's daughter Sarah in our chat. And Sarah's active in our chat, just like Rod is. Let's see. Andy says the Huskers and Arizona tailgate starts at 10 a.m. at Exposition Park. I don't know of any tailgates that are going on out there. Like, I don't know really many people who, outside of when I go to Nebraska and people hit me up, I don't know people who have like traveling tailgates. So I just go do my own thing when I get to games. But I am sure there are a lot of people there are a lot of people, not from our group, but like a lot of just Nebraska fans in general who are going to be out there at USC and going to be part of Tailgates. So if you know people, hit them up. There's a lot of opportunity when you're over at USC because there are a lot of party places. There are a lot of parks. There are a lot of like outdoor tented areas for tailgating. So it's a vibe. USC's fun if you're going to the game. Check it out. John says, you go to some awesome places and awesome games. Do you have private plane? I don't have a private plane, John. Could you imagine? I actually don't know anyone with a private plane. None of my friends have one. I've been on private planes, but rentals, pay for the day, pay for the flight. It'd be inefficient for me to go private to the games I go to since I'm not making money on those games. If I was making money to cover those games, then I would have to eventually start flying private, like Bussin' with the Boys does. Bussin' with the Boys gets Twisted Tea to pay for their private flights. I've had clients pay for my private flights, but only when I go on them with them. Flying private's nice, though. Dave, thank you for the $20 super chat. Thank you for being a member. Missed tonight. Sorry if covered. Never apologize, Dave. We appreciate having you here. I think Rule almost replaced Sat with Holgerson last year and offered him last week to be the OC next year. Okay. And then I don't even want to read the second part of the comment. I'm going to, and it's the first time I'm going to talk about it, which I hate doing. Well, we're going to do it anyway. Okay. Missed tonight. Sorry if covered. I think Rule almost replaced Sat with Holgerson last year. So he almost did, but I think Sat wanted more of a role than I think Holgerson wanted more of a role than what Rule was willing to give him. I believe he wanted to be in charge of play calling. He wanted to be an exclusive OC. And why would he not get that title? He's a decorated offensive coordinator, a former head coach at Big 12 schools. It makes sense that you would give Holgerson the keys. So the timing was wrong for him, right? The timing was wrong. We'll put it that way. And now things have finally aligned to where it looks like the timing's going to be right if he's going to make a change and he's going to want to hire someone to replace the guy he changes out, right? Okay. The other thing you mentioned about the person reporting that Sat sold his home, there are people online. I don't watch Wilson Dittman's content. I don't know anything about Wilson Dittman. No comment on Wilson Dittman. I have made comments before about people online making up rumors online and saying things that are crazy, that are unvetted. And I've seen people on YouTube who've been wrong multiple times. I'm not saying this guy. I don't know anything about this guy. But I've seen people who've been wrong multiple times. And they just say things even though they're not 100% factual. So one thing that you'll get from my channel is 100% transparency. Now, I don't admit or I'm not fully open about everything I know because I can't be. I hear things, I'm told things. There have been things that I've known for weeks before everybody else knew, and out of respect for my sources, I don't say anything. Or out of respect just for the program, and it just isn't necessary to share. It's like, okay, why would we share that information? It doesn't make any sense, You just leave it alone. And I would make more money, I would get more followers, and I would have more clout if I did do that. But I'm not in the game of doing that because it's not good for your personal brand long-term, and not if you're trying to make relationships with certain people and not trying to hurt people or whatever. So my point in saying all that is, I've seen people on YouTube make outlandish claims that are bullshit lies, and they don't fact check anything. They just put it out there because they know, well, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but at least I get the views and the clicks. Do what you got to do for money. But I don't believe anything I see out there because I think 90% of what's put on YouTube or put on Twitter is bullshit. People just say shit that they hear and they assume it to be true. I'm not saying that Sat didn't sell his house, but I've heard nothing of that. I talked to a lot of people, and there's been plenty of things brought to my attention from people on YouTube or sourced by people on YouTube. And it's been bullshit. I check it. People will say, hey, Connor, look into this. Go talk to your sources or whatever. And I check, and it's nonsense. And I'm like, okay, why did this person make it up? Well, they made it up because they heard it from somebody they know who they think is a reliable source. But it's just all, I don't get into that. So just letting you know. Just letting you know. Okay. Joey says, didn't get to watch much of Monday's stream because I had bowling league. I was going to ask if you're at your dad's in Oklahoma. If so, hope you guys were safe from the severe weather that day. Well, I hope you won your bowling league. Is that how it works? You guys play games. I don't even know, do matches? I'm sorry. I don't mean to disrespect bowling. I don't know what you'd call it. But I hope you won, if that's the appropriate thing. I'm assuming you competed. Anyway, you're going to ask about my dad's in Oklahoma. Yes, I am in Oklahoma. There was severe weather, but it wasn't that bad. It kind of blew over. I thought it was going to be worse because I was watching and saw that there was weather delay at Arizona State and Oklahoma State. But that storm came a couple hours later and just blew over. It was more so in the middle of the night. Like, I remember it was crazy lightning over here, but not too much. But yes, sir, I was safe. I appreciate you for checking in. Let's see. Max says, I live 2 doors down from Satterfield in a townhouse. I can 1,000% confirm he sold his house. Nice. So there you go. It sounds like confirmed by one of our subscribers, and this is someone I trust. Max has been with us for a long time in the chat. He wouldn't just make this up for no reason. So I trust him. He says 1,000% confirm he sold his house. So who knows? There are a lot of reasons for people to sell their houses, though. So selling your house doesn't necessarily mean that that you got fired. I actually would assume that he would sell his house after he left Nebraska, not while he's in the middle. And if he would have gotten fired, we would have known about it. So those two things aren't linked, But still, go back to my whole point in clickbait and shit. That still holds true. Nothing changes. Let's see. Clive is alive, says rate my PFP. Clive, I can't see your PFP or I would. I'm sorry. Andy says bowling league equals drinking and competing against a different team every week. Well, I'm glad you get to compete. It's always fun to be competitive. Nathan says, would a dual threat QB like Adrian Martinez or a pro style QB be better in Dana's offense? I think Dylan is far and away the quarterback who would succeed for a guy like Dana, because Dana wants to throw the ball primarily and he has good concepts, good receivers. So I'm going to say Dylan over Adrian Martinez. Kyler says Huskers suck at football. It's temporary. He says thoughts on the election. I won't give thoughts on the election to for either side, but I will say this because I think it's such an interesting time. People get so worried about the election and who people vote for and all the back and forth with it, when in reality, they've just got to worry about their situation and figuring out how to make the best of their situation. And obviously, I had my opinions on who I wanted to win, and a lot of people know what my opinions were, but I don't judge anybody else's opinions, and I don't let it change the way that I view people. There are people who I'm subscribed to on YouTube who voted Democrat, people who I'm subscribed to who voted Republican. They all have different views on things, and a lot of them have different views than I do. I'm a moderate. I believe a little bit on each side, right? I don't let that affect the way I approach their content, or I don't force it to make me stop watching them. I've seen people like on Bussin' with the Boys when they went and interviewed Trump. They go in the comments, well, now I have to unsubscribe. That's so ridiculous. Like if I came on here and I was like, hey guys, vote Trump, da 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 da, and then there were people in the comments like, I'm unsubscribing, I can never watch you again. That's the most ridiculous thing to me. So no matter what happened with the election, don't get too crazy about it. There's people on my Instagram today, girls like in LA, posting, which I think is extreme. If you voted for misogyny and unfollow me, block me. I don't want anything to do with you. And it's like, okay, well, not saying I did, and you don't know what I voted for, but you and I are friends, and we get along, and we have similar views on everything. So why would I block you, or why would I never want to talk to you again just because you voted for Kamala Harris, or because I voted for Trump, or whatever the situation was? Why would we ruin our relationship over that? We generally have the same ideas. We're a lot more in common than we are not alike. So people get too crazy about it. That's my thoughts on the election. That's my thoughts on everything going on and the craziness that you see online. So, yeah. Gonna end it there. GTR Nemo, what are your thoughts on Colorado now? Not a troll. My thoughts on Colorado now? I have a lot of respect for Colorado. Speaking of Colorado, the playoff poll rankings came out last night. Yesterday was eventful. It was the college football playoff show on ESPN. I'm not sure. Did you guys watch that? Let me know in the chat if you watched the college football playoff show. It was really interesting because they go in, they show all the teams' highlights, and they talk about their reasoning. But the reason it was interesting was because I thought it was going to be different from the AP poll, and it wasn't. It was the exact same. At least the top 12 was. And I was like, God, this is so weird. Why does every team
match up with what the AP people said. I usually don't agree with the AP at all. The AP to me is a bunch of people who don't actually watch football. They're just media people for individual schools, and they might watch 1 or 2 games a week, and then they put in their ballots, and they're just nonsense. So I was surprised that this aligned with the AP poll, since the college football playoff voters, in my opinion, they pay a lot closer attention. So that was my initial thought from watching the show. Okay, now speaking of Colorado, they came in ranked 20th in the college football playoff poll. And before I talk about the poll itself, a lot of respect for Colorado. Was hoping they'd have a good season this year because I want teams and I want the guys who are going out on a limb and doing something different. I want them to be successful. I think it's cool to see something different than we've seen before. And Dion is doing something very freaking different than what we've seen before. So yeah, my only issue with Colorado is that they're a rival of Nebraska, and there's a lot of tension in that rivalry, and so fans get a certain way, and there's the history. That's my only gripe towards Colorado. If you took that away and they never play each other, Colorado can be as good as they want or as bad as they want. It doesn't change anything for me. I don't care. I'm not that big on the rivalry deal. I don't have any hated rivals. I didn't grow up in Nebraska where some people at my school were Iowa fans, and I hated them because it was this back and forth thing. My biggest rivalry is USC. I hate USC. It pisses me off. I love USC and I hate them because I grew up around all USC fans. They were always good. Nebraska always sucked. So I heard that, it was all nonsense in my ears. But yeah, Colorado, no issues. They're solid, and I hope they're a playoff team. It'd be really interesting to see them go and play. If they were the 11 seed instead of Alabama and they were playing against Texas, that'd be crazy. Don't think they'd win, but it'd be crazy. So you've got this. This is what it looks like right now. It would be Indiana at Tennessee. Could you imagine that matchup? Nico Iamaleava versus a senior quarterback, a team, IU, who's explosive on offense, who's been dominant on defense. They could potentially fit in to that final 8. What the hell is happening? So I think playoffs interesting with Notre Dame, Penn State, Bama, Texas, Boise, Ohio State. They're just cool matchups. And although, we've seen some of them before, like Alabama, Texas a couple years ago, I think actually last year, right? The Notre Dame Penn State would be intriguing, or if Notre Dame went and played Georgia or whatever, however this shook up. It's just very cool to see this come to fruition now. And we're going to get to watch 4 home games at stadiums, not exact yet because this isn't the final, but stadiums like Penn State, Texas, Ohio State, and Tennessee. How fun is December 20th going to be? That buildup going into the new year is going to be incredible. I'm actually going to come. So my game plan is, I think I come to Oklahoma again on December 26th because I got to spend Christmas with my mom in Orange County. Then on the 26th, my sister and I will leave to come here. And then my uncle will be here, my dad's wife, everybody will be here. I'll stay all the way through the new year to watch the playoff games. Then I'll go back to LA. Then my dad goes to his Vegas house. And we're going to watch the second round of playoff games in the Vegas house. He lives in Summerlin. So yeah, I'm going to go back-to-back playoff weekends with my dad because my dad's that's our thing. We watch all the playoff games together. We travel around the country going to games together. So, yeah, I'm just excited for bowl season. I'm excited for playoff season. When Nebraska's not good, at least I have something else to look forward to. And although the 4-team playoff wasn't that exciting since it felt like it was always the same 4 teams, now you have this variety and the parity makes things interesting. So that's my thoughts on Colorado, my thoughts on the playoff, everything outside of just Nebraska. Let's see. Nathan says, do you think once all the Scott Frost recruits leave, the team will skyrocket to 10-win seasons? Skyrocketing to 10-win seasons, I don't think just happens. I don't think you're just going to see this roster turn over a flip and Nebraska just starts winning a bunch of games. It's hard for me to see that happening. I think that's a slower build, and I think, let's say all the Scott Frost recruits left this year, Nebraska then gets to 8 or 9 wins, and then the next year maybe they hit 9 or maybe they get to 10, but I don't believe there will be that consistency just because there's a new influx of Matt Rule recruits. I think it's going to be, I don't know, I think you're going to get a hot offensive coordinator, or you're going to get something that's clicking at Nebraska, and that's why they're successful. It's not going to be as much of, well, they're now not held back by all of those old bad habits, because that's what people are banking on. They're like, well, maybe if the Frost recruits get out, we get the bad habit guys gone, and Nebraska's going to be more successful going forward. I don't know how much truth there will be to that, so we'll have to see. Trevor says, how much of the offense's struggles are due to the players' lack of execution compared to coaching? Or would you say the execution is due to poor coaching? Yeah, I think all of that's true, right? I think number one, the struggles of the players and the execution is evident. The play calls have changed. We've seen some different things, but the players still make the same stupid mistakes. Is it the players' fault? Yes. But who does that fall on? Because if these players all went to other schools, we likely would see a different result. Wan'Dale Robinson was at Nebraska, goes to Kentucky, is a superstar, for example. It all falls back on their coaches. So if we say the execution is due to poor coaching, you have to go out and say, okay, well, we need different position coaches. It's not just the OC. The OC manages and oversees it, but the position coaches are the guys working with them day to day, and whatever it is they're doing isn't working. It's not getting them mentally prepared the right way. It's not getting them physically in position. So, yeah, unfortunately, the player execution has been poor, and the coaches are to blame. I believe that's true. Sarah says, I live in Colorado now. It's fun to wear my Husker gear and get the looks. I love it. See, I don't know. I don't have that experience. I wear Nebraska where I live, and no one cares. Like, no one notices anything because I don't live in a college football city. But I do think if I was in Colorado, people would care more, you know? So that is interesting. I like the dynamics. I like when you're in the Midwest or other places and people call you out for what you're wearing. Like when I'm in Oklahoma, everyone's wearing either OU, Arkansas, Oklahoma State. When I wear Nebraska, I stand out and people have conversations about it. Kyler says, is Indiana going to look like or going to be like Michigan State from a few years ago? Good for one season, then fall off after all the transfers graduate. I don't believe that that'll happen because I think the head coaches are in totally different places. What was the coach's name? Mel Tucker. Mel Tucker was at Michigan State. Before that, he was a head coach at Colorado, and before that, he was the defensive coordinator at Georgia. I think before that, was he at Bama? Whatever he was. He never had sustained success as a head coach. He wasn't a proven guy. He just kind of took on that Michigan State job, and he got lucky with the portal. It was the new era with the portal. Not many teams were abusing it the way he was. He brought in like 30-something players. He was the first coach ever to do it at that rate because it was the first season you could. So I think Cignetti, because of his past as a successful head coach, understands what it takes to build a strong program and not just a strong team. There's a big difference between building a strong team and a strong program. Mel Tucker built one strong team, and he did it with one player in Kenneth Walker. So I don't think they'll fall off. I think the transfers graduate, and I think he finds a way to be successful. Do they have as hot of a season as this year? That'll be tougher because if you look at what happens this year and you equate it to what's been building up at a school like James Madison, now all those players leave, like whatever it is, 7 or 8 starters. How are you going to be able to build that same culture overnight? It's hard. So, yeah, he's in year one. I just have to assume IU's dominance this year is going to take a little bit of a step back next season, even if it's not a complete drop-off. Nebraska says, I have to unsubscribe now after you said you'd like to see CU make the playoffs. Look, just as a Nebraska fan, or as a college football fan, I really enjoy, I saw another comment that was funny. I really enjoy watching all of these other teams that haven't been good or dominant find a way to be successful. You know, I like to see parity. I like to see not all of the same teams win it every year. It's boring. The NFL is an intriguing product because anyone can win any given day. Every year, outside of the modern era, since it's been all Pat Mahomes and the Patriots, right? But in theory, any team should be able to win. So that's what I want college football to be. I want there to be enough fairness in the game. That's why NIL and the portal and shit makes it fun. All of these dominant teams like Georgia and Bama who are able to stack up rosters and have 5 stars in their 3 deep don't get to do that anymore. Those 5 stars say, screw it. I'm going to Bama. I'm going to Ohio State. I'm going to Nebraska, wherever. So it leads to more excitement. So yes, I know we don't want Colorado going to the playoff, but at the same time, it's exciting. Andy says, my opinion, if you're a dude, you're a dude. Coaches really don't matter for real D1 superstar players. So I think that's true. I think the best players will show out, but I think if you don't have the players in the right position or you don't have a scheme that favors their skill set, you know, they don't have as good of a game, right? So an example is Wan'Dale. Go back to him. At Nebraska, successful, ultra successful? No. He was good enough to get on the radar to go to another school, Kentucky, and then put up, I think, 1,200 yards receiving or 1,400 yards receiving. He would have never been able to do that in Nebraska, right? Although he was a stud and he could have been successful, he wouldn't have been that successful. The reason Kentucky was so good with him is because of their scheme and because of the supporting cast around him. So there are a lot of variables that make these good players great, and you can't just say, well, because he has the skill set to be great, he's going to be. There's way more to it than that. If you were looking at college, if you're looking at college basketball or the NBA, you have a 5-person lineup. So one guy can shine a lot more than the others. In college football, you have 11 guys on the field who all play different roles, and then you have another side of the ball. So that's 22 players, plus the kicker and punter takes you to 24 that are trying to contribute to win a game. So one star player can't carry the weight as much if the other guys around him aren't doing their jobs, you know? See, there's all these Satterfield things that no one knows the answer to. So McWilliams says, sorry the question's late, but what's this I heard about Satterfield's family not being in state and him trying to get back to his fam and possibly working on an exit strategy for personal/family? True. I don't think anyone knows what's going on. I have no idea if Satterfield's family lives there, doesn't live there. Who knows? I don't think right now, at this point in the season, Rule is talking about Sat leaving. I don't think he's told Sat that you're done. I think the writing's on the wall and the vibe might lead him to believe at the end of the season he's going to get fired. But I don't think Rule's like, hey, you're going to get filtered out. We're bringing Dana in. Now, I could be wrong. I'm not like telling you I'm guaranteed to be right here. I have no clue. I just don't believe that Rule went to Sat and was like, hey, it's November 6th. We still have 3 more games, but just a heads up, you're done on December 6th. I just don't think he would say that, because what happens if they go to a bowl game? He's not going to kick him out for a bowl game, which means he's there until January 1st. I just don't know. I think a lot of it is people trying to make something out of the moving deal. If Max was right and the other guy on YouTube was right about him selling his house, cool. But we don't know what that means. You can sell your house for multiple reasons. So maybe he's selling his house because he wants to move into a different moving or living situation. Who freaking knows? I don't think it matters. None of it matters, in my opinion. We already know what the outcome is. That's what people get so amped up about. It's just news and it's just stuff to talk about. It's just drama. We're all on the same page and in the same boat. Satterfield is done after this year, and Dana Holgerson likely takes over as OC. Anything beyond that doesn't concern me. Does Sat move out of his house? Don't care. Does Sat move back to South Carolina and get another job? Don't care. Does Sat's family care? Are they interested in this? I don't know, and I'm not interested in covering that. I don't care about this dude's personal life like that. It's his business. And all I'm worried about is what's Matt Rule's next move going to be. And I don't need these context clues to give me insight. I already have enough clues. With the moment he went and hired Dana Holgerson to this staff in whatever capacity, that told me everything I need to know. I don't need to know about his house being sold. I don't need to know what car he's driving or what his wife thinks. None of that matters to me. Who did his wife unfollow on Twitter? I don't care, because that's not going to change my opinion on what's happening, you know? So who knows? Nintendo says overall thoughts on Tony White's performance this year. Does he try to take a head coach job after this season? You know, I think it's been up and down. I don't know how much of it's are the right players in position for his defense to be successful. He's only in year 2. He's still got to build and get more pieces in to, you know, make their defense more efficient, at least in the passing game. But you have to look at his whole body of work. When he came in 2023 and Nebraska was coming off of like a bottom 50 performance nationally, they were not very good on defense. He flipped it and made him a top 15 D immediately. This season, he continued the trend. They're ranked in the top 15 right now on defense. So if Tony White was able to do that at Nebraska, although yes, they're not a top 5 unit or a top 10 defense, like legitimately, it's just statistic. He's still done a remarkable job. He's done more than what we could have asked for or hoped. I remember our first year expectation. As fans, our first year expectation was for Tony White to have a top 40 defense. He exceeded that by 30 spots. It's freaking awesome. So yeah, things aren't great. They aren't perfect. There is work to be done. But the fact that he's improved them that much leads me to believe that he can get a head coach job. It leads me to believe that he's going to try and pursue one, since he already did last year. And that's why we think Phil Snow's going to come in and replace him. You know, when you bring a guy like Phil Snow in, who's already been your defensive coordinator at the last 4 stops, and Matt Rule's begging for consistency because that's what he's lacking right now, I think it's pretty obvious that Phil Snow would make sense. So that's my thought on him. Nathan says prediction for Dana's first season as OC at Nebraska. No idea. That's going to be an end of the year discussion. If he gets hired, then we'll have to see. We'll have to see. What are the chances of 3 straight bad coaching regimes? I really think it's the players. Do what Dion did and clean house. It's tough. It's tough to clear out all the players and start over. I don't think that's an option at a place like Nebraska. I think the culture's different. I think the way that players come to Nebraska and building that pipeline and a lot of it's in-state recruiting, it would leave a bad taste in the mouth of all of the kids in the state. It's just different than Colorado, man. It's different. Nebraska's not the same program. You can't do that. So Hugh says, what's up, Connor? Where the hell are you? I'm at my dad's house in Oklahoma. I'm here for the week. I'm going tomorrow to Oxford, Mississippi for the Ole Miss versus Georgia game on Saturday. And then I'll be back home on Monday, back in my regular studio with my USC prediction and preview. And I will be at the USC-Nebraska game on Saturday. Going with my whole family. It'll be great. Let's see. Andy was talking about knowing if a guy's a dude. And he says, my biggest example is Danny Woodhead at Chadron State. He was a dude and everyone knew he was getting the ball. Had 2,700 yards in 2006. Yeah, but it's different when we're talking about D2 football versus Big Ten football, right? It's hard to be, even Danny Woodhead would not have been that dominant in the Big Ten, So it's just different levels. If you would have put, I don't even know who, if you would have put Dante Dowdell at Chadron State, I'm sure he'd have a really successful season as well. Maybe not 2,700 yards, but I'm sure he'd be really successful going down to that level, Thank you, Chang, for the $30. The Taiwanese. He says, at least Rule makes change. Hope it all works. Yeah, at least Rule isn't adverse to it. At least he's not saying, I'm going to stick to my roots and stick to my guns and say, I don't want to do what you guys want me to do. And I'm going to, use my ego in this position and say, screw it. It's eventually going to work. I know it's going to work. It's worked before. And he's not that guy. He's very much, let me adjust, let me learn, and let me see what works in the future, because everything's evolving in the sport of college football. There's always something new going on. Coaches are trying different strategies when it comes to marketing, when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to play style, So I'm glad that Matt Rule changes. So again, thank you, Chang. Connor says, do you think Dana's Big 12 success transfers to the Big 10? Yeah, I think Dana Holgerson was an exceptional play caller and a quarterback guru, right? So no matter where he was going to be, whether it was Big 12, Big 10, whatever, he was going to be a successful coordinator. I do think there's a different philosophy when coaching coaching against defenses like he's going to see at Nebraska. But I do believe that because he knows how to get quarterbacks in position and receivers open, he's going to be better than what we've had. I'm really optimistic about Dana Holgerson. Let me just say that. I'm going to make a whole video about him when he's hired. I'm pumped for it. Let's just wait. Because he's not that coach yet. And I think he'll be successful, but there's a lot to get into when we're talking about it. Andy says, what has Banks done to deserve a start at wide receiver? Banks has been one of their most consistent receivers. Banks catches every ball that's thrown his way. Banks is a big body who's athletic, gets downfield. He's gotten open, and when he isn't open, he finds ways to make the catch, make a play on the ball. I do think there are downsides to him. He's not the the perfect receiver. And I think one of the other downsides for Banks is that he doesn't know how to block. It's frustrating. But just from a pure receiver standpoint, he's extremely gifted. And he catches everything that comes his way. So other receivers have dropped stuff in the past, and I don't see him as that type of guy. He's more consistent with his plays downfield. So people have frustrations with these receivers, but it's not all them. It's a lot to do with the scheme. Hugh says, damn, I was just in Bentonville. I've been in Bentonville 3 days out of the last 5, Hugh. My grandpa lives in Rogers. My dad moved him here from Newport when he had to be put into a home, so he can go visit him often. Hey, Connor, can I possibly buy some good seats for cheap on game day for USC at the Coliseum? I'm currently in section 320. Braska Rascal, you 1,000% will be able to buy good seats that day. So here's what you're going to do. There is a giant pathway, all like a street, all the way around the stadium that outlines the entire stadium. It's a huge circle, okay? On that pathway, there are multiple scalpers selling tickets. On game day, it's going to be Saturday, it's going to be 1 o'clock. There won't be that many USC fans there. And there will be a bunch of USC fans there with extra tickets because people didn't want to go to the game. USC fans aren't interested in going and watching a 4-win USC team. They aren't interested in going and watching an unranked Nebraska. They weren't even interested in watching, I think it was like a 4-2 USC team play a top 5 Penn State. That stadium was half empty. So here's what you do. You walk around that circle path. The best place is underneath, what's it called? Like the Olympic torch. If you're on that end of the stadium in the end zone, out on that sidewalk, you'll see everyone's tailgating out there. You just hold up 2 fingers like this and you walk around. And you are going to find tons of scalpers. I mean, there's a lot of freaking scalpers out there. And you'll find fans. And if you want to get good tickets, just wait, hold up, or pull up your phone and find the sections that you want to sit in. And then just wait until you find tickets in that section. And you'll be able to get them for cheap. I've been scalping tickets at USC games since I was 8 years old. So, yeah, I know the program. And it's extremely easy to get tickets there, especially good seats. So if you need 1, 2, no problem. 3's a little harder. 4's easy. So, yeah, just go out there and find tickets. No problem. You'll get really good ones. There's just not that many people that are interested in going to that game, you know? Sarah says, coaching changes next year won't matter if we don't fix the O-line. It'll be a bust year again without a solid one. I think there are ways to work around with the O-line they have. You know, you can work around it, but next year they're not going to have the same O-line. Next year they're going to lose Mazuka. They're going to lose Ben Scott. They're going to lose Bryce Benhart. Maybe you get Turner Corcoran back. You get Litovsky back. You get... who's the other one? Number 51. Why am I blanking on his name? Too many names. You guys know who I'm talking about. Number 51. He used to have a hyphenated last name. Starts with a J. Whatever. Doesn't matter. You guys know who I'm talking about. They're going to have some O-linemen back next year, but yeah, they do need to improve in that area. I think they're going to have to get someone out of the portal. It's a huge loss when you lose 3 starters, especially 2 of them who are your best guys, and Mazuka, well, Ben Scott, I guess right now. Ben Scott and Bryce Benhart. Let's see. Caleb says, do you think these moves help Nebraska earn a bowl appearance this year? I think it's too soon to know. We won't know until we see how much Holgerson's influence comes into play. I am hesitant to make a prediction that's anything different from what we've seen so far. I don't think Holgerson can come in and fix things. I think Holgerson you had 2 options for Matt Rule. Either completely lose your team because the team was frustrated, the offense was frustrated. So completely lose your team in exchange for not firing Satterfield, or fire Satterfield / hire Holgerson, and it buys you more time for this season. He chose the hire Holgerson part. And I see a comment right here from Lane. It says PR move with Holgerson puts attention onto him coming into town and not what a mess this offense is. Buys Rule some time. Rule's a PR mastermind. And I agree with this a little bit. He made the right move because he wanted to make sure that, things didn't fall apart with the fan base and with his players, you know? So I'm just not sold on Dana Holgerson coming in and fixing the problem right away. I just don't see that as realistic. You are who you are. I've said that 100 times, and they are who they are. Let's go make some picks for this week's games. Let's see what I'm going to take. So I'm in the mood to take dogs right now. The way these last few games have been playing out, I like some dogs. I like taking Wake +7 at home at night, a game where Cal has to travel across the country. I lean Iowa -6 right now. UCLA coming off a road game, but I might not play it. I think this is a really tough line. I think UCLA's got a lot of momentum right now. Usually I would say play UCLA in this spot at home at night because they have that advantage, but UCLA doesn't get home field energy. So this is a tough pick. I don't know what I'm going to do about that one. I'm going to put all my plays up on Discord so you guys can see them, by the way, if you want to ride with some of them. They're always in Discord. Let's see. Texas, Florida. That's an insane spread. I don't know why it's so big. I'm taking Florida unless like a QB's out. If DJ Legway's out, I won't play him. But I think I would take Florida. Minnesota, Rutgers. I'm taking Minnesota. I hate Rutgers. They've totally fallen off the face of the earth. I'm taking Boston College at home. Syracuse has been ugly the last couple weeks. Let's see what else I like here. Georgia, Ole Miss. I'm going to be at this game. Have my Ole Miss jersey on. I'm a big Ole Miss fan. I like Lane Kiffin, you know. So I'm taking Ole Miss plus the 2.5. Probably a Georgia play. For fun, though, I'm playing Ole Miss. Indiana plays Michigan at home. 14-point spread. Insane, but it just tells you about the matchup. They think the matchup is going to be way in Indiana's favor. And I tend to think that they're going to be successful in that game too. So I'll take the 14, or I'll give the 14, sorry. Iowa State's at Kansas, and they're a 3-point favorite. I think I'm going to take Kansas here. +3 for a team playing a top 20 Iowa State, and Kansas has been trash all year. I'll take the 3 points and just hope for the best. Clemson plays at Virginia Tech after that debacle at home last week against Louisville. I think Louisville's a lot better than Virginia Tech. I'd probably lean Clemson. Duke, NC State. I faded Duke last week, and it was good for me. But I hate NC State, so I'll probably stay away from that one. Colorado plays at Texas Tech. Afternoon game turns tonight, 3 p.m. kickoff. This will be a tough one. Battle, because Texas Tech just came off a win over Iowa State. I like Texas Tech's running back. Dude's already ran for over 1,000 yards this year in 9 games. My God. I think Colorado has a hard time stopping the run, but they did do it against UCF. Let me come back to this game later in the week, and I'll tell you guys what my pick is. Really tough. 3.5 is a lot of points to give when you're at home. Oh, no, they're getting 3.5. I'd probably take Texas Tech plus 3.5. Vanderbilt plays South Carolina. I love both of these teams. I won't have a play on this game because I'm a fan of both, and I'd love to see either of them make the playoff. Unlike Colorado, you guys would accept my hope that one of them would make it. South Carolina just dismantled Texas A&M. Don't know what Vanderbilt did last week, but they've been hot as well. I'd probably say it's a letdown spot on the road. Another game that turns tonight for Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt fans are freaking fired up. I'd take Diego Pavia here, and I'd get 3.5 at home again. Maryland plays Oregon. 25-point spread is ridiculous. Mississippi State's at Tennessee. So I took Mississippi State last week. Or 2 weeks ago. They didn't cover against Arkansas, but they covered for me the week before against Texas A&M, and I think they'll cover on the road at Tennessee. So I'm going to take Mississippi State to get 24 points. UCF's at ASU at night. You know, ASU's stadium at night is not an easy place to play, especially when they're a good football team. Right now they're 6-2, fighting for an 8, 9, 10 win season. I think I'm taking ASU at home minus the 3. Staying away from that. Staying away. Bama, LSU. I'm taking Bama. Love LSU. Think they've been hot this year, but I do not think their quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier, is as good as Bama's quarterback. I think Jalen Milroe is more consistent, and I like Bama's weapons a lot. So I'm riding Bama +3 on the road at night. It's going to be a crazy game. I'll be watching that one for sure. OU plays at Missouri. OU's a 2.5-point favorite. I hate Missouri. I think they're extremely overrated. OU's not very good either, but they're better than Missouri, so give me OU. Penn State's at home against Washington, minus 13.5. This is their whiteout game. Washington coming off a win over USC. Honestly, I'd probably lean Washington. 13.5 is a lot of points. Penn State's off a loss to Ohio State, but everything tells you, line making wise, to take Penn State in this spot, but kind of like Washington here. Virginia plays at Pitt. Not a rivalry game, but Virginia is a 4-4 team. They're decent this year. Pitt's off a loss. Probably take Virginia plus 7.5. BYU Utah is one of the more intriguing matchups this week. It's very late at night, 9:15 for me, which means 9:15 for you. I forgot I'm in the Midwest. They're undefeated. They're giving 3.5 points to Utah. I don't know why the spread's so low. I guess because it's a rivalry game. I'll take BYU because I think this spread should be like -6 because Utah's not very good. But I'm sketched out by the line being so low. So we'll have to see. Those are my plays for now. We'll see. I'm going to add in my PrizePicks plays my PrizePicks plays on Discord later this week, and you guys can ride whatever you want. Douglas says I was going to ask what happened to Grant Bricks. He's a true freshman. He's on the team, but true freshman, and got to wait for guys to play like that. You can't just get true freshmen in and expect them to be good, you know? Let's see. Jamal says, Connor, can you answer this for me? My father-in-law is adamant that Scott Frost is the greatest quarterback in Nebraska history, but I say Frazier. Who's right? I don't know, dude. I wish I could give you a better answer than that. But I was a young kid back then. All I've seen was their highlights. And you can go off, who was more successful, the bigger national championship. And that would be Tommy Frazier. You'd say Tommy Frazier was part of the best team ever in college football, 1995 Nebraska. But if I was just going to say, okay, well, who's purely the better quarterback, remove them from Nebraska and put them at another school, I don't know who was better. Wish I knew the answer. I'd have to do a lot more research on that. What do I know says last time we played in a bowl game, who was president-elect? We are going bowling. 2016? Was Donald Trump? Was it Donald Trump? I think it was Donald Trump. So you're saying we're going bowling because Donald Trump's back in office? All right, well, that's a bold prediction. Bold prediction. Allie, thank you for being a member for 24 months. Late to the show, but happy to be here. Well, Allie, you're the last chat of the night, so I'm glad you squeezed your way in. I appreciate you for the support and for being a member for this entire time. But guys, it's been an hour and a half. I covered a lot. Covered as much as I possibly could. I leave tomorrow morning. Got to get up at 7 a.m. for that. And then I've got the full Ole Miss experience before coming back home, making content for USC week. So it's been a chill week, bye week. You guys know how it goes. Much more calm. And we'll get back into the nitty gritty. We'll call it the nitty gritty next week. And Nebraska's fighting for bowl eligibility in LA. So until Monday, right? I'll see you Tuesday probably. So until Tuesday, thank you for being here. I appreciate all the chats, all the super chats, all the support. You guys always make the show fun for me. I will see you in the next one. Go Big Red.